Welcome, everyone. Really glad to have you here today. I just want to let you know what today we'll cover. We'll cover the basics of cybersecurity. We'll talk about the access crisis we have right now with cybersecurity. We'll talk about the threat landscape out there that you should be aware of as a user of technology. And we'll talk about AI, vishing, and smishing that we wouldn't use every day to apply to you more often than you realize. And then we'll talk about workplace best practices, and then love to answer some of your questions. A lot of questions you have are going to be questions that possibly others have, so please don't be shy about asking questions and putting them in the chat. Love to be able to kind of work through any of those questions so you can leave here today feeling informed and kind of feel kind of an ability to understand what you're up against out there as you're working in the digital landscape that you are in. To start with, I'd like to emphasize that we are in a world where we're really talking to machines every day. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we are. We want to think we're talking to someone when we're emailing them, that we're emailing our colleague, and that's my colleague and my boss and my bank manager or my construction boss. But you're using technology to get to that person. And that's what I want to talk about today, okay, as well. So I want to ask you a question to start with as we're being inundated with AI, and this is going to weave into what we're covering today. I was wondering if you could answer this question. What AI tools do you use every week? Some are going to be using AI often in terms of generative AI. Maybe use it every day. Maybe you use it once a week. Maybe your job requires you to use it, or maybe you don't have to use it at all. But a lot of companies are trying to let the staff use it and trying to encourage it with everything they do. They're trying to say, use it. This is how you can use it, and giving you options so that you can choose which way you can use it for your job to make it easier. Either way, if your company isn't doing that yet, that's exactly what's kind of on the horizon, because most companies are trying to say, it's okay to use it. It can help you. It's your little assistant. Leverage it. So please answer that question and then kind of help me know kind of what direction to go with the tools that you're using. Because there's so many choices now, and there's obviously the enterprise version and the free version, okay? So give it another second. Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Awesome. Yeah, I got 10 responses so far. So I got Copilot. Maybe we should have a poll, not a submission.
Yeah, maybe.
So I got Copilot, ChatGPT,
Yeah.
Copilot, Gemini, Claude, and Copilot. For one person, they're using all three.
Yeah.
Another person using Copilot, ChatGPT, integrated AI report in payroll system. And then another person's using Perplexity, and then another person's using Copilot and Gemini.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
I think most people using Copilot, looks like.
Yeah, because you obviously work with Office 365, and that means it comes with your tenant, and it could be enterprise, so all those reasons. So that makes sense. It's convenient, has a little bit more features than the free version, and a lot of those are free version and enterprise version. But either way, you're using multiple of tools, and that's great. That's awesome. So good to see that. So I want to tie this into, first of all, transitioning to why I think cybersecurity is an access crisis. So I want to start with the fact that wherever you work today, you're coming from all different industries and you're all in different positions. You're all coming from a perspective of you are working for an organization and you are accessing a company's systems and a network to do the job you're doing every day. Right? We do have brick and mortar, but we also have all of the software we're using to access the company products and services that you are doing for the company or for the clients you're servicing. So they could be various different the products, the services, and the work that you're doing. But just for today's sake, put on the hat where you are the worker, whatever role you're in, and personally, because truthfully, this is going to apply to both. All right. Because of the landscape we're in, everything is so digital. Everything we touch is through a device. You can see how everything is really interconnected. Okay, so because everything's connected, that means you can access anything from anywhere. So you could be vacationing in Hawaii and you can check your email. You could be working remotely for the week and logging into your laptop. So you can log into everything because it's a cloud-based software and you have credentials to access the system that way. So with that being said, you can access that software from anywhere. I want to let you know, so can hackers. Okay, so hackers are some, off yonder, somewhere, they're doing something. And I would like today to bring it kind of in closer to you so that you can understand, even though you can't see them, you can't touch them, you have no proof of them because they leave such a little digital footprint. You kind of just about want to believe, really, what do they want with me? Why do they even care about what I'm doing? I just work for a construction company. I just work for this private small, and I'm just a project, or I'm just administrator. You can have that perspective, but I guess what I'd like you to have a perspective of today is to leave today's session going, maybe I'm more than that to a hacker. And why would you be more than that to a hacker? Why would you mean anything to a hacker? And who are those hackers? Well, those hackers, they're out there and they're not going away at all, right? They have all different capabilities. They're different structures. They have different targets. But what I do know for certain is they're wanting to target your identity and your data. Sorry that my picture is overlapping incorrectly there, but what I wanted to show you here is you're touching valuable data every day, and you are a commodity of value as well, believe it or not, right? So let's start with why that is. Okay, where are they going to get this? So let's look up PII first of all. So if you could help me right now by looking up what is PII, and I think Matt, you might have a question for that, and then tell me what those examples are. Okay, we call it personal identifiable information, but we abbreviate it with PII. Okay, and once you know clearly what that is, you'll understand why your identity and your data are valuable commodities in the marketplace. We call it also confidential data, right? And these aren't terms you're going to use every day. You just are doing it. You're just doing your work every day. You're servicing your clients, you're creating invoices, you're processing invoices, processing maybe HR records, maybe your payroll, engineering designs. You're just doing your work every day. But what you are not aware of is you're actually interacting with PII every day, probably more often than every day, like maybe all day, right? So if you can put in the answer, I would like everyone to look it up because this is applicable to you. And it kind of takes away from this, oh, hacker, he's way off there. He's in Russia. He doesn't care about what I'm doing. He's in the Ukraine. He doesn't care what I'm doing. He's in China. He doesn't care what I'm doing. He's going after big companies like Scotiabank or, Amazon. Well, actually, yeah, that's true. They're going after them as well, but they're actually targeting individuals like you. And this is the reason they're targeting individuals like you. So we'll wait a little bit longer for answers. But basically, confidential data is happening and interacting with you every day in your company. And it's a critical component to the way you're doing your work every day, right? And that's why cybersecurity best practices need to be part of your everyday practice, because everything you touch has such high value because of the data that you're touching. And so when you're looking at that data, you might value because you're just doing it every day. But if we break it down to the one simple concept of let's start with PII, then you go, oh, okay, then maybe I am touching something valuable, and maybe it is confidential data, and maybe it does have a little bit more to it. I'm more involved than I realize. So, Matt, if you want to just give a few, there looks like there's some people who respond, so you could just close it and read off some of the responses.
Yeah, for sure. So I got for a couple people saying it's personal identifiable information. But some of the answers: name, SIN number, address, phone number, etc. Any information that can identify you as a person. Sometimes multiple bits of information are needed to identify a person. So, password, PII, staff, patient info, contractors. Patient info was one section. Staff, patient info, contractors. People's names and addresses. Those are all the responses.
Awesome. So you can see that you would be touching, some of you would be touching some of those types of data. Some things that you wouldn't think of data would be, for example, your IP address, your online username, right? Your credentials, your online credentials, like your email address, your credentials that way, right? So those are all identifiable pieces of information that are linked to confidential data, which is linked to, privacy regulations as well. So it's kind of tied to, it's a valuable piece of data, whatever category you're saying, oh, it's health records, it's tax records, it's financial records. They're all considered confidential data under PII. In your day-to-day, you're more than likely handling some of those, but then if you're not handling the personal identifiable information, then you're handling other confidential data that is proprietary. So the engineering records, right? Project plans. Maybe you're handling client records that are pertaining to where clients live that are not necessarily, maybe it's housing, right? So the thing is that you're handling confidential data, because if you went and put that data up on the light post, would your CEO be happy about that? No, because you don't want that out in public, right? Part of it is you're doing work that is for that organization only. It isn't meant for public usage. It's meant for you. You're the employee, otherwise everyone would be doing it. So what we have to understand is we are handling confidential data every day, and it has a value. And there's actually like price points for all of these particular, we call them data sets, that would cost them money to buy it, but they can sell it and reuse it to scam you, right? And it's kind of like full circle, because if they can sell your data to the highest bidder, then that means they can utilize that for their gain, right? So they're taking it and they're possibly using it as your identity and stealing your identity, or they're stealing your credit card and then using your credit card, right? I've gotten calls, for example, even where I get people asking for my MFA code, my authentication code from Amazon, and you're like, what? Why do you want that? And it's kind of confusing, because you're like, what's happening right now? So you're getting targeted in different ways. How can we get your and we want your data because they want to trick you to say, okay, if you trust us, you will give us that information. And who is asking for you to trust them? And so what we're getting we mistake what we're talking to and thinking it's real. And I'm not just talking about AI, because AI is having a whole different level of capabilities, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what you have to understand is you're a target because you're handling data that is valuable to a hacker that wants to get it from you. And you think, well, I don't handle a lot of data. It doesn't matter how much data you handle. It's the fact that you have access to that data and it's worth something in the dark web to sell. So it's like this marketplace. Well, we want it and we need to get it. How do we get it? We're going to steal it. How do we steal it? We'll steal it from people. How do we steal it from people? We're going to trick them. We con them to get them to give us this information. This is not new, right? We've had con artists from the beginning of time. It's just coming with a different face. But the problem is it doesn't have a face. It's digital. They're talking to machines. They're talking to devices that are tricking you to do things that are for their gain, not yours. So I would like for you to put on that kind of lens from now on to go, how do I know I'm not being conned? Am I going to be conned right now? Because the thing is you might have to be a little bit more skeptical in every digital transaction you do going forward in order for you to avoid being conned, because you're not going to be able to tell the difference between a real incoming message, a real incoming voice, and a real incoming request, because it's all digital or phone or text, right? So right now, the main threats that are happening in the North America right now is social engineering, and it's social engineering you. So it's that really social engineering is conning you through means that hackers use, means that scammers are using, and means of AI. So I kind of put them together because what's happening right now is they're using all of them to be able to find ways to change their methods of attacking you and stealing data. And they're evolving and are constantly evolving to make sure they can be effective to do this. So the thing is that when you're looking at that, you have to go, okay, what's happening that I have to be aware of? So it's pretty complicated and it's really technical, and I don't necessarily need to get into that. And you don't have to understand that either, because what I cover with you today, it's going to change possibly in 6 months in terms of their methods, right? But their methods are somewhat not just, oh, hackers do this, scammers do this, and AI does this. No, they're utilizing all aspects to have this arsenal of tools to utilize against you as an individual, to target you as a company through the means that you have as a human. So what we have is we have a credential challenge, a credential theft challenge. Okay, so attackers don't break in anymore. They log in, right? 1 in 6 breaches in 2025 involved attackers using AI, and including AI crafted phishing emails, communication, to IMs, to you, to people like you. And passwords are being breached because they're stealing your login credentials, your passwords, and that's causing 22% of breaches just from compromised passwords. And then also when they steal credentials, then they'll take the whole company down, and 44% of those breaches are involved with ransomware attacks, where they're going, okay, London Drugs, we've taken you down. You can't operate unless you pay us money because we just stole all your data. So that's at 44% right now. And what they do is when they take a company down, they'll take them down so they can't operate until they pay the money for that data to return. Because they know, okay, London Drugs needs that data, so we'll shut them down until they pay us the 25 million. If they don't pay us the 25 million, then we'll sell that data. So the company's in a real bind because they need the data. It's confidential, it's client records, it's health records, it's credit card records, all the above. What do? They can't afford to have that be sold on the dark web and put every customer to be vulnerable to have that sold, and essentially under the Privacy Act in Canada puts the client or customer in harm's way. So that would be you. If you were a client of London Drugs and you had health records, they were compromised. So then you're going to be a victim to that type of breach because they stole the data and they want money in order to give it back. And they're really going to extort the company because they really actually want to sell the data and get money from you as a company as well. So what we're finding is customer PI is the most targeted data type in breaches. It's counting for 53% of compromised data globally. So it's a really high number, right? And unfortunately, when it comes to, for example, healthcare records is considered customer PII, because if you're in healthcare, they're your client, they're your customer. So they're worth 10 to 50 times more than a stolen credit card when it comes to stealing them and reselling them. Why? Because most medical records can't be changed, right? Your date of birth, your address, your diagnosis, those can't be changed. But once they're stolen, they're constantly going to be permanently compromised, right? So that's why a record is so valuable in the dark web, right? Because they can use it to get someone's, prescriptions. They can use it for all sorts of fraudulent reasons that would benefit them and not you. Again, I don't think like criminal, but you have to think, well, they're going to use it for their gain and they're going to exploit you for that by getting confidential client records by using it that way, right? So again, it seems like, how does it happen? But it really is a full circle, right? And so what we want to do is we want to think about what is it that we have to do to stop them in their tracks? And what is it, how are they doing it to us to even get even us vulnerable to even be a victim to this? Well, it's interesting because phishing is the means in which they are reaching you. And so social engineering and phishing are one and the same too, because social engineering is tricking you and they're finding ways to trick you. And so through phishing is the way they're doing it. So it's evolving, right? It comes in all different ways now. It comes through texting, it comes through email, it comes through voice, it comes through social media, it comes through instant messaging, it comes through ads. So when you think about all the digital media that you're consuming, they're targeting as many ways as they can to be able to be in front of you so that you do what they ask you to do inside of that incoming digital message. Again, digital message. How do you know humans on the other side of it? You don't, right? So for example, when you're looking at how you're vulnerable, you have to think, okay, well, I look at text every day. Yes. You look at social media every day. Yes. You look at email every day. So these are real massive targets that you're actually interacting with every day. So they know this. They know this is low-hanging fruit for you to be the target, to reach you at your level, because you're going to be there working in email, texting, IMs, looking at social media, clicking ads, all the above. So we have to look at that going, okay, so if it's evolving, how do we navigate determining what's real and what's not? Well, I think what you have to understand is they're always going to aim at sending you malicious links, basically. So they're going to say in a text, in an email, in an instant message, hey, click on this link, because they want you to do something. Now, what we're finding is their emails are crafted perfectly. Their logos are perfect. Their naming and everything is perfect because of AI. So you can't detect what's real and what's not. So that's a problem. But they're asking you to do a task that may not be normal. And that's where we possibly have to stop in our tracks and go, okay, so if I'm going to be bombarded through text and email, phone, all of these different ways, how will I know? I think it's a matter of you going, okay, don't look for errors. They're not going to be there anymore. Look for perfection. So now you have to go, okay, if it's a machine on the other side, how am I going to detect that, right? So you're going to have to look at those nuances around was I expecting this? Is this normal? Why am I getting this? So, we all have a Microsoft account. You're going to get a simple incoming, message that looks like this, and then it says review recent activity here. Basically, they're saying, like, click on this link or click on this link or call this number. So they're going to give you all means of saying, okay, let's see how we can trick them, con them, social engineer them to do what we want them to do, because we think they're going to believe this. So that's where you're going to have to go, how do I know this is real? I have to stop in my tracks and look at this with a different lens, because I work with a Microsoft product, I work with a valid team, but the digital incoming messages, I don't think are actually valid. So now you have to go, okay, I have to have a different set of eyes to go, okay, I'm going to have to start verifying incoming digital messages now because I am bombarded with the machines creating fake emails, fake call to actions, and circumventing all the actions and steps and processes you do so they can make you do something for them and not benefit you. So the other thing that's also really popular is smishing. So I'm just going to share a video with you, and it won't have sound, but I don't think I shared sound. Can you share sound halfway through a meeting? I don't think you can. So anyway, it's not going to have sound, but I want to share it with you because it shows you an example of how easy it is to be tricked through texting. So we call it smishing, but it's texting, okay? So that happens to us all the time where we're getting illegitimate texts with links in them. And they could be coming from Netflix, Amazon, you name it, so that they look real and they're not real. So this is another level where we're going to have to pay extra attention to go, I know that's not real, delete. I know that's not real, delete. But the thing is that I think, unfortunately, it's okay that there was no sound because it was mostly the actions I wanted you to pay attention to. So no worries there. I just want you to show how quickly things could fall apart by just clicking on a malicious link in the text, because that could be in text, it could be in IM, and it could be in your email. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that quick in response. That's how efficient hackers are, is all they need you to do is click on the link. So that's where you have to be extra cautious and extra skeptical and go, why are they sending that to me? I don't necessarily know if that's valid. It doesn't make sense. I have to go verify that because it doesn't add up to me, right? So we're experiencing also an incredible amount of vishing, which is the getting phone calls, and they're using AI clone voices of your voices. And unfortunately, this is on the rise as well. So you as an individual, an employee, you're going to have to pay attention to email, texting, and voice. So AI is integrated in all of that because a hacker can use AI to create real voices, to be able to make them sound like your boss, to get you to do something the criminals want you to do so they can steal data, money from you. So whatever action it is, it's going to be urgent. Whatever action is going to be, it's going to be out of context. And whatever action is going to be, it's going to make you kind of go, oh, I better do that. Now, I just want to point out to you that we aren't masters in determining AI voices versus human voices. What we do know is that it is convincing. AI is coming along really fast to sound like a human voice. So we have to understand that there are a few nuances we could pay attention to that are not the same as a human voice. And maybe, you don't want to go pay attention to this, because you're like, what are we coming to that we have to think about this? But this is the reality. So just pay attention to the fact that human voices possess a natural variation and emotional range of contextual awareness that AI doesn't currently have, right? So it can't fully replicate a human voice. So pay attention to those characteristics, and so that you can know, okay, that it had a weird inclination. That's where you have to listen to your gut and go, oh, that didn't sound real. Just for even a little second, that's where you can go, oh, that probably was AI. That means that's your intuition going, oh, that wasn't real. And that's what you have to listen to, because it's so subtle. We can't determine fake voices versus the real ones. And that software is getting better and better and better. Unfortunately, this voice cloning thing is becoming a very concerning issue, because you have employees who are working with vendors could take an incoming call thinking it's the real vendor you're working with. So you have to have some protocols in place so you can go, I need to verify that. And one thing is that it's okay to step back from that incoming request. And I think what people struggle with is they think that they can't walk away from that person's request, whether they're on the phone or whether they're in an email or on a text. I would say, if anything, yes, that's the one thing you should do, is walk away from that request and go get someone else involved, so you can say, I'm not sure, just double check with me, right? So when it comes to AI cyber risks, over 50% of professionals enter confidential or sensitive data into AI systems. And unfortunately, that's really exposing data of your company into these chat boxes that are not keeping it confidential. It's now into the dark world of AI. And so if it's proprietary information, that's dangerous to you as well. So 60 to 75% of North American office workers report using AI tools at work without even approval. And again, they're accessible, they're easy, right? And this is every industry: technology, finance, healthcare, energy, manufacturing, all the public sectors in both Canada and US. And so, like, when you're looking at data and you're using AI, I would say one of the things to pay attention to is you can use AI to help you put together a contract, but you can just scrape out the confidential data part, cut out those pieces inside of that document, delete them, and put in the parts of the contract that you have to revise and get help with that, so that there's no confidential data in there, and you can still get AI to help you formulate that contract in a way that is going to be quicker, and there's no compromise of data. And you can do that for any data sets. It doesn't matter what you're doing for reporting. You just pull out the data sets that has the confidential information and just put in the data set that isn't confidential and get help with that. And then you can put it in after the kind of results are as you would like them. And then you can continually work with AI and the projects you're working on, and not put your company at risk with inputting confidential data into any of those AI tools. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of shadow AI, but that's also on the rise. It's a use of unsanctioned AI tools, and it's where you're pasting those documents into public tools. So you can have a private tenant of Copilot, and that's where they'll tell you specifically, you can use this for company documents. We have it we have it locked down, so it's okay to use AI in our company. That's fine. I'm talking about the public tools. What's happening is people are having Copilot at work and they're allowed to use it, but then they'll open up ChatGPT and a personal ChatGPT, and it's not a company enterprise ChatGPT, and then they paste company information in that while at work. So that's what shadow AI is, and that's on the rise as well. And we want you to pay attention to poses, and we really think that it's best if you just continue to use the approved AI tools that your company's given, and not your own personal ones while you're working with company data. Now, when it comes to like the mindset that you need to keep in mind with what you're working with going forward, there's a few things to continue to keep practicing, and that is passwords. Okay, they still matter. if you can see here, 2025. So that is continually, hackers have sophisticated tools and they know how to break into systems to steal passwords. So we need to take as much due diligence towards our passwords today as ever before. So using different passwords for different accounts and not having them in an Excel spreadsheet on your desktop, we need to have care. We need to follow a policy that we have in our company where we're following protocols, so we're not reusing passwords. Like it says 54% of employees are reusing passwords across multiple systems. And then using a password manager, okay? There's, your company may have one, or if you don't, look at the top 10 password managers in 2026, and you can see the options there. But using that will help you, so it can help you store passwords, it can help you create passwords, and more than importantly, you can store them securely because they're encrypted. So then they would never be compromised because they're kind of vaultly, and you can open up that vault to get and retrieve that password, okay? MFA, multi-factor authentication. That's the where you verify through another way of saying, this is me getting into the system. So you're logging into Sage software, or you're logging into CRA, or tax, the government website, you're using multi-factor authentication, saying, yes, this is me. So when you're in CRA, they make you do this. They say, you have to verify that this is you. You have to accept a text, a phone call, or use an authentication tool in order for us to let you inside of this software. This is what is required for all software, and it really should be required for all staff. So for those critical accounts, you have to use those. It's really important. Next, I want to talk about some of the best practices when you're looking at using AI. Okay, so first of all, best practice number one, never put this into AI. Just simple. Never put customer PII and financials or contracts into AI. Two, if you wouldn't email it outside the company, don't put it into AI. Okay? And then here's another one. Just one second. So again, we want to use all the AI tools in the world, and even our Microsoft tools are like, you open up Word and there's AI there, and you can open up another software and they're just, whether you're, let's say you're using a CRM or you're using making e-learning videos, it doesn't matter, marketing tools, they're always going to have AI capabilities. But at the end of the day, your company has to have tools that they have to approve, and you have to use those ones. So just don't use personal AI tools for company data. Now, this is one thing I think is really important, and this is the layer of verification that you should implement in your personal life and your professional life. But more importantly, where? So where you have to make sure you have kind of the process followed. This is where you could get in trouble, where you're like, someone's asking for someone's records, someone's asking for quarterly reports, someone's asking for the drawings, someone's asking for a bank change, someone's asking for you to sign on a new vendor. It doesn't matter. When you're getting these incoming requests, they're going to be normal in your day-to-day, but at one juncture, they may not be. And how are you going to determine if it's a legitimate request or not? So I would request that you put in your process to make sure you have a verification step in your company process when it comes to you handling confidential data. So those who don't handle confidential data, you're not necessarily going to be on the hook for this, but you're going to be realizing if you're connected to team members who are doing this. So for example, HR, if you're onboarding new staff, what is your verification process to make sure that new employee is actually a real person when you're starting the process, but also a vendor. Is that a new vendor? Is that a real vendor? What's the human side of that? Because again, you can't guarantee it's a human. You probably should assume you're talking to a machine. And then if you do that, you might be a little bit more diligent and on guard to go, well, I have to verify that I'm getting a human from this. I need to prove it. So then you choose what is best in your company. So you can do one-time ID re-verification after initial approval. You can do certain things where you're doing maybe a phone validation. You can use third party for this, but there's got to be another way to verify. Because what I'm seeing is a lot of companies are getting duped by these processes they just overlook. So they might skip one process and go, well, we just went along and we changed the banking information, only to find out it was a hacker who stole that company, that vendor's domain. All of their email accounts were compromised, and they were emailing from the valid vendor, hey, we just changed your banking information. Use this from now on. Unbeknownst to company here, who went, okay, we'll change your banking information, and started paying the vendor who they thought they were paying, and it was actually a hacker. So you go, how did they do that? You can't be bogged down with how they did that. You have to go, it doesn't matter how they did that, they're doing that. So what is it that you're going to do to prevent being kind of somewhat hijacked by hackers in your process of onboarding new employees, new vendors, processing invoices, payments, anything that has confidential data? I would recommend you take a look and make sure that any team member who's working in those areas that are handling confidential data to look at that process and go, are we all following it? Do we understand what that is? And would we ever feel we need to come out of that process? Because that's what the hackers are going to get you if you veer away from that process. So not following that vendor asked for us to change their banking information and pay them at this bank account. What did we do to verify that vendor actually asked us? No, company didn't verify. They just said, okay, we'll change it for you. That makes sense. And they changed it in their system. They just went and changed it. They didn't verify it. They didn't phone them and say, hey, so you have any banking information? They didn't do any second verification. And that's what I would say from all of the processes, that would be key. So I would recommend from this session to go review that and make sure no one is going to kind of skip the process. Basically, I would say if you could have also the approach of not believing every incoming voice, set up a protocol to follow for all processes that involve anything to do with money when it comes to a voice call. We have proof that AI is causing havoc with this, where people are believing it was their boss, their financial controller, and they send and follow the request to give them the money that has been called in. So this is where I would say find a way to do we call it a code word, where you say, we have a code word in our company, so that we can say, what's the code word? You want me to make that transfer? Tell me what the code word is. And then they go, oh yeah, the code word is whatever you want it to be. As a team, you create that code word, and only your team knows. But then you can never have a shadow of a doubt that you're talking to a real person, because you just go, hey, what's the code word again? Or you make that part of your process. Every time you make these kind of requests, you have to say, OM, and then they have to repeat a complementary code word, so you can make sure that you're working with real people, with these real transactions that actually matter for your business, so you don't ever get hijacked by these hackers who are going to circumvent your process and steal your credentials and your assets this way. I want to jump to Wi-Fi best practices. When it comes to Wi-Fi, I think the simplest way to approach Wi-Fi is just don't do anything that would require confidential information on Wi-Fi. So transactions of any confidential data. So whether you're on holidays, in a hotel, airport, coffee shop, anytime you're in those public spaces, just think, don't do banking, don't access company network, and don't do company any company, access any company software while you're on Wi-Fi. Unless you're using a virtual private network, VPN, go ahead. But anything else, go ahead. Watch videos, look on social media, but just make sure you're doing any of those banking and such. Do that before you get to a public Wi-Fi space. Because again, this is where hackers hijack Wi-Fi systems in public spaces. I won't go into how, but they do it easily. Doesn't take a rocket scientist, and you wouldn't even realize that you're sitting on a Starbucks Wi-Fi network, but actually it's a hacker's network. So just if you take that caution, then you don't have to worry about using Wi-Fi, and you don't have to matter where. You just have that kind of standard of, I won't do anything private or confidential on Wi-Fi when I'm at the airport or hotel or at the coffee shop, and you'll be fine. And then you just reduce your risk substantially just by changing that behavior alone. And then I would just say, going forward, just don't believe all communication. So making sure you're using secure messaging and texting apps. So if you're communicating with clients on Facebook or any social media, take caution, because that could be hackers faking, pretending they're somebody, and they're not. There's also deepfakes everywhere in terms of every kind of website you can imagine. There's fake links to get you from advertisements to get you to go to other fake websites. So you just can't believe everything you see online in terms of what you're clicking. So make sure you're using secure messaging apps within your company. So if you're hiring, for example, I worked with a company, an apps company, and they do a hiring process. They're a very big company, but they had an incoming HR request through LinkedIn. And this person was claiming they couldn't get a hold of the HR manager. So they said, here's my record, here's the job posting. I need to verify this. And they were trying to kind of bring in an employee to get involved in this hiring process. And they were sending them documents. And the staff member luckily went, I'm not in HR. I have nothing to do with this. So he stepped away and went to his HR manager and said, hey, I'm getting requests about hiring from this person. Are you talking to this person? And lo and behold, it was actually a hacker trying to trick this staff member through LinkedIn. But he was using the direct messaging in LinkedIn to be able to say, well, I'm getting hired from this company, and this is the proof, and this is our meetings. And he had all of this legitimate information. It looked real. But what stopped this employee was, he's like, I'm not even in HR. This is not even what I should be handling. So he stepped away, went to his boss and said, yeah, this is all fake. But it became a very serious situation because everything about that communication looked legit from that HR manager. So that individual staff member thought it was really that HR manager working with this hacker, and it was actually all fake. So that's where you have to just be careful on the social media apps and how you're texting and communicating with clients or vendors or anyone for that matter. And then when it comes to vendors, I would just say, don't update bank details solely based on email or phone. Call the vendor using a trusted number and follow your communication process. Sorry, that glitched out there with this, but follow your communication processes. So one last question for you. If you receive this email right now, what would you do first and why? So just put it in the chat. What raises red flags for you if you see this? Take a look at it. Give me at least one thing that you go, I don't know if I would say that's real, or it stands out and I should be concerned. Okay, email address. Awesome. Yeah, ASAP. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Always check the email address. Brilliant. Yes, brilliant. Yes, they are telling you to click something. Yes, awesome. The urgency. Yeah, if the Google Doc link is unsecured. Brilliant. Exactly. And I would also say pay attention to the sign-off. HR department analyst. sometimes that could trick you, right? No name, exactly, no name. You could say, do you even have that term in your company? An HR department analyst? So something could be really dead giveaways for you when you're looking at incoming communication. Can go, we don't even have that title in our company. Delete it. So that's the one thing I want you to know is you can do two things really easily. Walk away from the communication, whatever type of communication it is. You do not have to continue to engage. You also can delete any communication that you don't think is real. You don't have to act on this. Okay. Some people go, well, should I open it? No, you're never opening email. But if you clicked on that link or even replied, you're engaging the hacker to do, you're just taking the bait, we call it. So even though you might not have clicked on the link, if you reply to that email, they can fish you in another way by engaging you. So the thing is you can just delete that email. And then the other thing I want to point out is you're never going to have a boss, a colleague, a vendor like we talk like that. We act like that. We are professionals. We're asking something, hey, when you have a minute, can you send me this? We don't say, I need this in the next hour. I need this by the end of the day. Hurry up or else I'm running into a meeting. Do it now. So just keep that in mind. Remember, no one is going to treat you like that. Your people that you work with wouldn't actually make those kind of demands to you. So you have to remember that human aspect. Right? We don't talk that way. So I don't have to, that's the red flag right there, is the way they communicate is never urgent. You're not going to get in trouble if you do it. That is not how we talk professionally. But hackers think that they think that works. And so you got to remember, no, that's not how we communicate. We don't work on urgency. We don't work on, oh, sorry, I got to do this now or else. No, that's not how we work professionally. So just a sense around being can really help you know, delete text, delete, phone call, hang up, email, delete. Just completely take control over that because they won't care how they loop you. All they need is one time. Okay. So some key tips: use a password manager with every account you have. MFA all accounts. It just takes about 5 seconds to verify any incoming message anyway. It's not like this is a hard task. You don't have to be an expert on anything. You just give it a minute. Just look at it, scan it over, see if anything stands out that doesn't add up. If it doesn't add up a little bit, you doubt a little bit, just delete it. Don't even waste time. It's not even worth it. And then follow all the AI input rules. As AI evolves, so will we. But those are some key rules that if you follow, you're going to spare yourself a lot of headaches professionally and personally, right? And then if you follow company processes always, you will spare yourself a lot of headaches from these hackers targeting small companies like yours. Because trust me, they're targeting small companies like yours. And then create a safe word with your team. Again, it doesn't have to be a complicated word. It could be something as simple as Apple, but the hacker's not going to know it. So if you say, what's the code word? He's not going to know. And if he doesn't know, you're going to stump him in his tracks. And that's all that we're asking you to do is stump him in the tracks so you can go, I need to verify so I can make sure I'm following company process. So then you just can say you've done your part, you're following the best practices, you're having utmost cybersecurity hygiene in your day-to-day work practice, and it didn't take you to be a cybersecurity expert in order to avoid these disastrous type of attacks that companies are experiencing. So that's all I wanted to cover with you today. So just remember, all of these main, just verify. Whatever is coming your way, just verify. So I'd like to take some questions and clarify anything that you need more details on while we have a few minutes.